So my name is Ryan Hall. I've been with the Montana Electric Cooperatives Association since May of 2012. Prior to that, I spent about 15 years in newspapers, different magazines, radio, and TV. So I've kind of been the gamut of media, and then came over to this side where I kind of do the other side, and I put out the press releases instead of sorting through them. So it's a little different realm. So I can kind of offer tips and tricks from both sides of what we do. So the first thing I kind of wanted to go over today was who are you communicating with and how, and are you reaching them? I think a lot of times we get caught in that I have to put out a press release because my boss told me so. And so we put one out, send it out to the ether of whatever email addresses we have, and let it go, and we've done our job. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing correctly. So I think the first question is, who are we communicating to? Why are we communicating, and is that the right group? So here I've got several different communications. We have the Rural Montana magazine that speaks just to electric co-op members. That's my bread and butter and the first thing I go to. I communicate very differently there than I do if I do a TV interview or a radio advertisement or a newspaper press release, because I'm talking to 100% co-op members in rural Montana. I'm talking to our electric co-op members. In the newspaper, I'm talking to, by average, 60% of people who don't get their power from co-ops, may not even know what we are. Same with radio advertisements. So I communicate very differently. You have to introduce yourself when you're talking to those general areas, and you can talk more like a family member when you're talking to your members. There's also a different level of communication. So one thing we have as cooperatives, whether it's electric, whether it's supply, whatever it may be, credit unions, we have an inherent trust that right now nobody else has. I grew up watching TV news and Tom Brokaw and watching 60 Minutes, and that was the facts. We never questioned anything we saw from those main networks or those main shows. And now it's the other way. You watch those shows and you're like, prove to me that you're not lying. And it used to be prove to me that what they saw on TV was wrong. And Facebook is even worse. And now with AI, it's gotten even worse. I saw a thing the other day. There's a guy who always does, how can you tell this video is AI? And he teaches you how to tell. And so he showed this miraculous video of this guy surviving being run over by a bus. He says, how can you tell it's AI? And there's all these comments and everyone's commenting. He's like, it's not. This is the problem with AI, is now we've gotten to look at amazing videos of amazing feats. And we go, well, that's AI. Let me find the little thing that's a problem. And that's not, it used to be you believed every video until someone told you why not to. Now we're the other way around. But when you're electric co-op or a co-op of any kind, you don't have that. They trust you first. Why? Because we brought electricity to their great grandparents. You brought a supply cooperative or a farm cooperative to their parents, to them, to their kids, whatever it may be. You form that trust. They feel they're member owners, so they feel like family. And so why would you lie to the owners? So we have an inherent trust that no one else has. So our first business, at least in my mind, before it's getting the information out, before it's teaching people, before it's informing them in any way, is don't betray that trust. It has taken decades to get it and build it up. It'll take you 30 seconds to get rid of it. So that's the first thing. Be transparent. If you're going to address something, address it fully. If you can't address it fully, don't address it unless asked, because you need to be transparent and honest with your membership at all times. That's the very first thing we do. So now talking about kind of the methods of how to do those communications. If we're talking into an internal documents that you have that go to your member owners, again, I write very folksy, for lack of a better term. I always think, what does Farmer Bob at the end of the line need to know, and how can he process it? We have in the electric industry a lot of acronyms, a lot of buzzwords. Beneficial electrification was one everyone was using for a while. Our members don't know what that means. So you either have to educate them or find an easier way to say it. I find an easier way to say it. Those are buzzwords that you need when you're in newspapers, because people do what's called SEO searches online. They do Google searches and they want those buzzwords. They'll search for data center, or they'll search for beneficial electrification. Farmer Bob doesn't. He wants you to just tell him what it means, how it benefits him and his co-op. So we write it two different ways. So very folksy, very conversational. I say that when you read my magazine, you listen to a conversation I had it with somebody at a bar stool, and you get to sit at the table next to me and listen. That's how that should be. You send that to a newspaper, it's never getting printed. That's the articles they write, not what you do. So that's knowing your group. So now let's talk about talking to a group at large. You're sending out a press release. You're letting people know you developed a co-op, or you have a new product, or you have a meeting, or whatever it may be. That is written very seriously, very news style, very who, what, where, when, why, top to bottom. When I worked at the Tribune, which I left there in 2012, Great Falls Tribune, we got 130 press releases a day on average. And so the number one call I got was, why didn't you run my press release? Why didn't you call me to do a story? How do I get in your paper? How do I get on air when I was in TV? And the thing is, you got to stand out. So the number one mistake that I see, because I get press releases every day as the editor of Rural Montana, the number one mistake I see, and I'm going to pick on Lindsay so I don't throw anyone else under the bus. She doesn't do this, but I'm going to use this name, is NCDC press release. NCDC press statement. Those are the subject lines. I would tell you 90% of reporters will never click on that email other than to hit delete. Give me a reason to read it. So you want to put in there, MCDC announces new farm co-op. Now I'm going to read it. Or new farm co-op announced. You don't even have to put your name in the subject. That's the one mistake that was happening when I came here, is every email started with Montana Electric Cooperatives Association, something. Well, the problem is, if you're reading that on a phone, like many of us do, you don't even get to finish the word association, let alone what the something is. So then people told me to abbreviate to MECA. Great within our organization, but no one knows what MECA is when I send it to the Billings Gazette. So don't do that either. Tell them why that press release matters. Introduce yourself in the press release. We make it about ourselves too much, and that's the quickest way to be deleted. The other thing to do is, it's okay to get cute and have fun. Don't get so cute to where you are misleading someone. This happened all the time. We get an email that would say, MCDC hires tester. And you're like, oh, and you open it up and it's Bob Tester from Colorado is joining the MCDC staff. That's not what I thought when I opened it. And now I'm mad because you did that on purpose. You could have put the word Bob in the headline really easy, and there's no mistaking it. People do that all the time. Or I've seen it where they like to use semantics to get things put across. So they'll run something that's, Nihar opens huge new co-op downtown. Well, it's only 8 people, but in a town of 30, that's huge, right? Now I'm again upset and mad. So that's not the right way to do it either. It's fine to be cute, but don't get to the realm of misleading. Cute works. But they always told me, be cute, but not too cute. So that's a good way to look at it. So what I would say is, get an engaging subject line that tells me why to read it. Again, MCDC announces new farm co-op to form in Missoula, whatever it is. I'm going to now read the lead. The second most common mistake I have ever seen in press releases is building to the lead that I'll never read. So you get to we'll use that example I'm talking about of a mythical farm co-op. So the lead might be a new farm co-op is filming in an area that needs a lot of help. Missoula is such and such percentage of this and that, and we do this and that. And then in the 4th paragraph, it says, Lindsay's farm co-op will solve these problems. I never got there. If I'm reading your second paragraph and I don't know why my readers are going to read it, then one of two things happen. Either it's not interesting, or you wrote it so poorly that I'm going to have to spend the next half hour rewriting it. And my goal is 5 minutes per press release, unless I call and make a story out of it, which can happen. But if it's just a short one, like that new co-op might turn into a story. But if it's MCDC names new board officers, that's not a story. We're just going to rewrite the press release. And so if it's MCDC names new board officers, the board officers of Ryan, Lindsay, and Jason are cycling off and have been turned out. We have now elected 4 new board members. They will start serving a 3-year term beginning next week. We look forward to their leadership. The new board members are, I have deleted that 3 paragraphs ago. So you start with Bob, Tom, and I don't know, Julie are the new board members. They succeed, blah, 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 and then go into your stuff. But if I have to find the 4th paragraph to figure out why this is, and I have to rewrite it, it's not getting printed. Especially now. We used to run a lot more press releases when I was in the paper because it was 20, 24 pages. Now the papers aren't that big. We also had a newsroom of 30 people, 10 of which were rewriting press releases every day. Now you go look at the Tribune's website and there's one staff member and it's an assistant sports editor. Everyone else is out of state. They're not having that many people go through press releases. You have to stand out amazingly and quickly. So be concise, because no one's going to run people always sent me like 8 to 10 page press releases. And their theory was, I've either written the story for you or you can cut it down. I don't have time to cut it down. And if I want to write a story, I want to come out and do the story. So give me 3 paragraphs at most that either tell me this is my business brief, or give me 3 paragraphs that says, don't you want to come out and learn more? Those are your 2 options. A lot of people just, if you want to write the story, put it in your own publications. But a newspaper is not going to run a 4-page story that you wrote, and they're not going to cut it down. So know your goals. Is my goal to get them out here to cover us, or is my goal to get my business brief that I have a new board president in as is? And do that. And if you're trying to get something in as is, go look at those business briefs and go, they average 80 words with a photo. I'll do that, because I hated getting 20 words without a photo or 400 words with or without a photo. It didn't matter at that point. So look at what you're trying to do and mimic it. Do it your own way, do it better, but mimic where you're trying to go. Same thing if you're trying to get me to come out and do a story. Tell me that this new Lindsay's Farm Co-op in Missoula has formed and we are having a grand opening on the 10th. And then don't write for the public if you're trying to get me to come in. That's the next mistake, is people write it, hey, well, in case they run it this way. Don't do that. Say it's on December 10th, we're opening up this co-op. We're going to have a grand opening. We're going to have a grand prize giveaway. There will be members there for you to interview, including board members. If you want to talk to people before or after, we can set that up for you. Let us know what type of photos you want, and we will have those readily available. If you need the board members doing the shoveling the dirt thing, we can do that. If you need the ribbon cutting, if you want candid, let us know, and we'll get photo releases signed by the people who come in the store so you can shoot without worrying. That was the biggest help to me. If I knew you were taking care of the photo releases and I knew I could take pictures of cute kids picking that first candy off the shelf at the farm co-op, then I'm there. So tell them why they should come and make it an invite. Either write the story you want them to rewrite or write it like an invite and tell them why to come. When you write 2 pages, it's a story, and hope that they want to come do more, it's going to leave them in the middle and nothing happens. Don't put them in limbo. Let them know you are invited. Because the worst thing too, as a reporter, when I felt invited, I felt I had to respond. And it's a lot easier to say, yeah, I'll find a way, than no, I can't make your event that you think is important. But if you didn't invite me and you just sent me a write-up, I could just hit delete and move on. So that's kind of my tips on press releases, kind of communicating with the trust that we have. I would say in your own stuff, make the lead interesting too. Just because you're not writing to a paper, don't bury it. A lot of times we really want to do these amazing prose and do some really flowery introductions. I've been guilty of that too. And I find that the best leads hit hard. If you want to be cute, hit hard quick. So we did a series about a year and a half ago now on them trying to pull out Snake River dams out in Idaho and in the Washington, Oregon areas as well. And I thought really hard about the lead and had to get it past my boss, but it worked. I put, if the Snake River dams are breached, then Western Montana has a big dam problem, spelled D-A-M. Now, Jason, I see you smile. You're going to read that next line, aren't you? That's what it's about. I didn't tell you.
And that article.
There you go. I didn't tell you why or how or what all the factors is on breaching. And you may not even realize that how close or far breaching was, but it got you and you're going to read the next draft. Now, the next draft is where I have to give you the information and tell you that fish numbers are up, production is down. We're looking at a 50% increase in rates if the dams are removed. Now I've got you hooked on a personal level. So you were interested because of the humor. And now you're like, my rates might go up 50%. Yeah, I'm going to read this. And that's how you go. But so many times we start with, in a beautiful section of Idaho, the Snake River dams weaves between the mountains down or the Snake River weaves between the mountains down through 4 dams. Salmon move up and down the river every year. It is important for the tribes to have these salmon. Great. What's the story about? Where am I going? How many of you would click off at that point? I would. You can put all that stuff in the story. You can make the story have that color, as we call it, later. But if you lead with 3 paragraphs of that, no one knows. If I tell you there's a big damn problem and your power is going up by 50%, we're all at least going to the next paragraph. And in an internet generation where we all read a little bit or watch a minute and a half of that 5-minute video, we now read paragraph by paragraph. Our grandparents read the whole story. We read the paragraph and decide whether we want to read the next one. And you have to do that every time. So every paragraph, there's no more throwaway paragraphs. We used to just say you had to write 30 inches, and even if it's a 22-inch story, make it 30 and make it entertaining and people will read it. That's not true anymore. We read paragraph by paragraph and we're looking for a reason to exit. I call ourselves a drive-through society. We pull up to the window, we get our food, we hand the money, we leave. That's how we want everything in life. Give me what I need to know. Let me move on to the next thing because my life's busy. So we need to show them why each paragraph matters or each statement. If you're giving an interview on TV, it's the same thing. Every statement, think and speak in sound bites. The one mistake we get is we hate silence. And as a reporter, that's what we were told to do. If I asked Jason a question and I wanted him more, I asked, hey, why'd you build that new building? He goes, well, it was needed. I stay silent. And Jason feels he didn't answer the question. So now he starts talking. And he's not prompted by a question. So he's talking, waiting for me to ask the next question. So he's not satisfied it. So he keeps talking and I get more than what I'd ever get. So take a second and pause. They're going to edit your 5-minute interview down to 30 seconds anyway. If you take 20 seconds to answer the question or say, hey, give me a second, it doesn't hurt the interview. You're not live. So don't be afraid to answer the question, be asked one and think for a second, say, give me a second on that one. And then speak in sound bites. Speak in a 20 or 30 second sound bite that means something. And then that way you're not sitting at your couch that night going, wow, I look stupid, because I've done that. Everyone who's been in media long enough has done that. I see nods here. So it happens. No one's perfect. So take that extra second. We're so afraid of, they asked a question, I'm on camera, I got to answer. Why? Unless it's live. If it's live, that's different, because then you look bad if you take a long time. But if it's not live, why? Compose yourself, take your time, answer it appropriately, answer in a soundbite that makes things interesting that you'd want to hear. If you don't want to hear what you're saying, no one else will. So that's kind of what I had for planned. Jason or Lindsay, do you have any questions on kind of general communications or anything I can help with?
I do. In general, what's a good number of words for a press release, like on average?
Depends on what you're trying to do. Say you're trying to do a biz brief if you have a new board member. I would keep it to 80 to 100 words. That's about 30 seconds of spoken text. If you're trying to, like I said, announce that event and you're trying to get a few paragraphs in, you're not trying to get them to come do a story, but you're trying to announce there's this new co-op, I generally say about 5 or 6 paragraphs. And I'm not giving you a word count because it's more about what you need to and the thoughts you need to get in there. But 150, 200. You don't want to go super long because then you're getting into story mode and they're just going to delete it because they want to write a story if they want to write a story. If you're doing an invite, there is no word count, but I keep it at 1 page because I'm not reading a 3-page invite. And I also really, really like the box on an invite. So you send it to me and say, hey, we're holding this event. We'd love to have you come. This is what we're doing. We can set up interviews and photos for you. And then there's a box that says, Thursday, December 4th at Lindsay's Co-op in Missoula from 2 to 4 p.m. interview opportunities for our grand opening. I can literally take a picture of that on my phone and I got everything I need to show up. Put the address, everything in there. So instead of making me read 7 paragraphs and write down, okay, it's at 2, it's at this address, it's this person I'm calling, put that in there, put your phone number, your name right in that box. I know everyone does it at the bottom, and that used to work, but here's the problem I just said. When you get an email, and I'll ask both Jason and Lindsay here, when you get an email, how often do you think you read to the bottom of an email that you receive? So if I put my information at the very bottom that, MECA is this, that, and the other, for any questions, reach Ryan Hall, it better be at the top or it better be in a box with a border. But the habit is put it at the bottom because that's where it always was. If I get to the third paragraph, like, yeah, this was interesting, but I don't know how I'm supposed to do anything with it. I'm not looking, I'm looking for a reason to get rid of it. I'm not looking for a way to find you. So you've got to realize that when you're sending it in, they're looking for a reason to move on to the next one. So give them everything they need right up top.
Brian, can you give us some good ideas of what would qualify for even writing a press release for a co-op? What are some things
Um,
that might trigger, besides board members or new co-ops, what are some things that might keep in mind of like, oh, hey, we should write
yeah, the answer is anything. I know that sounds weird, but like that should be the answer because your goal should be to send out a press release at least once a month and recognize that two of them will get run. But let them know because the other thing you're doing is you're making yourself known. So if I get a story that there's a shortage on zucchini and I need a local source, well, Lindsay's Farm Co-op has emailed me several times. I've got Lindsay's number right here. I'm going to call and ask her about the zucchini shortage. That's what you're doing more than anything. Getting the press release in is awesome, but you're getting your name, you're getting a connection. Doesn't hurt, not every time, but call once in a while and say, hey, just making sure you got that. If you have any questions, then they know your voice. Now you're a source and you want to be a source. So that's a great thing there. But anything like we have a lot of electric co-ops that go and hang up their Christmas lights on the street lights in town. And they take a picture and they put it on their Facebook and they run it in their magazine, but they don't send it to the paper. Why not? Why not say it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas thanks to ABC Electric? Why not? Everything that happens, you've got one of your co-op members or one of your board members was the head coach of the football team that just won the state Class C title. Why not put a picture and say congratulations to Greg Smith and the Fighting Panthers for winning the state Class C title? We're proud to have you on our board. Why not? Is that a thing that impacts your co-op? No. So why would you put it in a press release? I'll tell you why, because now I know Greg Smith. I root for the Panthers. And he's on the board of this co-op. I want to figure out what they're all about. What are they selling? What are they making? What are they doing? Maybe I'll go talk to Greg. People don't think about that. We think of the direct things, like you said, annual meeting, of course, new board members, new hires, retirements, new products, rate increases, rate decreases. We all know those things. But why not that? Might it not run? Sure. But the 20 minutes that you spend or 10 minutes you spend on it, what you can redo for your own social media, why not? And that's one thing I say, repurpose content. Don't ever write anything for one reason anymore. If you write something for social media, turn it into a press release or a radio ad. If you write something for a press release, turn it into social media and or a radio ad. Like, why in this day when we don't have time, why are we writing one thing for one medium? Write it, tweak it. Don't put the same thing in 7 different places. Tweak it and send it out and take 3 hours if I had to write a radio ad today, a social media post today, and a press release today. And I did this once and then I spent 5 minutes making each one a social media tone, a radio ad tone, etc.
and then who do you send those press releases to? How do you go about figuring out who to send those to and starting them if you're not
Simply
already
ask
using it?
simply ask yourself who'd want to know that. So if we're doing a new board president for MCDC, that's going statewide to every newspaper I can. Fun fact that people don't know: if you search up Montana newspapers, there's a website on the mt.gov platform that lists every newspaper in the state. And if you click on it, it gives you their emails and contacts. So I spent one day going and grabbing all of those, and now I have an email list of 72 papers that I can send out to it immediately, plus radio and TV. So that's a great resource to go. It takes time the first time, but it's awesome. So that one goes to everybody. If I'm doing the Fighting Panthers won the championship and their guys on our board, I'm sending that to the local paper of whoever it might be. For instance, if you're in Glasgow and it's the Scotties that did it and they were the coach, I'm just sending it to the Glasgow Courier. I don't need to send it to the Great Falls Tribune. They're not going to run that. So if it's a community thing, if it's the Christmas lights you're hanging, you send it to a local every other week paper. If it's a board changing thing, an annual meeting, you send it to every paper in your territory. If it's a big decision's being made or a new building and you want to come check it out, like your opening, I would send it to papers in a 4-county radius. You know, it all, I know it's not the answer you want to always send it here, but it depends on what you're trying to say. And it's simply put, who wants to or needs to hear this message?
So the newspaper, the TV station, the local radio station,
Yeah.
those kinds of things for whoever you're.
Right. And don't be afraid of blogs too. Like here, the Electric is as big as the Tribune is anymore. Send it to that electric newspaper. If you, so I know guys that run a podcast here called The Weekly Bust. When I do stuff, I send it to them. Don't be afraid to use new media. So many people are afraid of new media. I wouldn't send it to everyone that blogs on their Facebook or says this, that, and the other. But if you have a podcast you listen to or a local blog you follow, send it to them.
And then what's the main benefit for those that aren't using this? Why would they want to? Why do they care about, why is it worth sending out press releases? Because I know a lot of co-ops that aren't doing.
Yeah, well, and people think that they just don't have time to do it, and well, if when I do it, they don't run it anyway. There's a couple good reasons for it. The most obvious is exposure. If you do get it in the newspaper, if you do get the message out there, people have heard your co-op name. They know what you do. They've heard some of your board members. Maybe they attend your opening. There's a call and response. Maybe they attend annual meeting. That's the most obvious benefit. The one that people don't realize is it makes you an expert. So if I have to sit down and I have to write about Jason being my new board president, and I want to put a couple things in, so I give Jason a call. I say, hey, Jason, what are some of your hobbies? Where were you at before here? Can you give me a few things to put in this press release? Well, now I've talked to Jason and have a rapport with him, and now I know things about Jason. And or if we start talking about hanging up the lights, and I know how many light poles there are and do all the stories, and then I go to the Rotary and give a talk about all the things we do for the community, and we hang up Christmas lights, and they're like, oh yeah, well, how many lights do you hang up? Well, now I know that we hang up 347 feet and there's 700 lights and there's 14 poles, whatever. But you learn things about your organization, about what they do, about the people in it. So later you have those answers. The more you know about your organization, the more you know about who they serve, the more you know about who is doing the serving within the co-op, the more you learn. Every story, every press release I've written, I've learned something. Sometimes minor, sometimes a lot. Sometimes I learned there's a school in a town I didn't know there was because I wrote about them winning the youth tour. You just never know. And sometimes you get connections writing press releases. So I call Jason, say you're the new board member, blah, blah, blah. And then Jason calls and says, hey, did I ever tell you that my uncle has the biggest museum of classic cars and you should do a story for your co-op magazine about that? No, you didn't. But now we have that connection. So it's amazing how just from those little calls, things will happen. The other thing it does is make you a better communicator. What I always say when people say, why write press releases? Why call the TV? They're not coming anyway. That to me is like an NBA player saying, why go to practice? I'll show up for the game on Tuesday and I won't have any problems, but I'm never going to practice basketball again. How's that going to turn out? Anyone's got any guesses here? If your kid doesn't practice for soccer or basketball or football, and then they don't play in the game, what do you tell them? So I find it so funny that we tell everyone else, practice your craft and get good at it, but we don't write because someone might not run it, or we don't make a call because we might not get on air. Practice your craft and get good at it. So when, God forbid, something bad or something really good happens and you don't have a choice. So we have a huge outage from a fire caused by electric utility and I have to write something about it. If I've never written a press release before, that's not the first one I want to write. If our president was just named the co-op executive of the year and doing a big award and we're going to DC to accept it from the president, and that's the first press release I ever wrote, I'm in trouble. So write them before you have to, because if you're in this business long enough as a communicator, you will write a press release that you're either not ready to because it's really big, or you don't want to because it's negative. That's going to happen. So be ready by shooting the free throws at practice so you can hit the big shot in the game. I mean, that's the number one thing is You've got to do repetitions in practice.
And I love the idea of just that free exposure, right? It sometimes works more effectively without any cost than if you pay for the advertising that everybody ignores anyway, a lot of times at this point,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, and like
So,
I said, you might write 10 press releases and they only print one, but if you get it in the right paper, what is that one worth monetary value? If you get one release in the Billings Gazette, that monetary value is well worth the 2 hours you spend on those 10.
yeah, I think that's great.
What's the role of AI, chat GPT and stuff in writing press release?
A very cautious one. So there are times I use ChatGPT for some things, but you just get into what we talked about, Jason, is first off is the practice. If I'm using ChatGPT for every board member announcement, which it works fine with, by the way. If I put in Jason's our new president, this are 3 facts, write me a press release, it does great. I am not going to go to ChatGPT and say, we just caused a fire that burned 8 homes and knocked out 50,000 people. How do I write this press release? So if you always go to that ChatGPT when it comes time to write for real, you're in trouble. So I would say write some, use it some. If today's the day that you've got 785 tasks and that press release has to be out by noon, use ChatGPT and clean it up. If tomorrow you're done at 3 and looking for things to do because you don't want to start that next big project till 8 tomorrow, write that press release because you're going to have to write some someday, and you need to keep your pen sharp. You need to be ready. So there's that. The other thing is be very careful when you use AI. So AI works in some cases very well. I use it for form letters myself. If you call me and want a reference letter, I will put in Jason, hard worker, always on time, ready to do anything I needed, great communicator. I'll let it spit it out. I'll put in a couple personal quotes. I'll clean it up. Great. I get asked to do letters of recommendation all the time. That saves me hours. But we have had situations. There was one in a different state, and I'm not going to call them out, where someone was doing a story on a cooperative electric co-op loan program for businesses for energy efficiencies. And they put in ChatGPT doing story about local business near blah, and doing this, please, generate and find quotes. And they thought what it would do is mine the internet, find the quotes, give them a story. So they turned it into their statewide about this local auto repair shop, and it had the owner of their auto repair shop with quotes talking about how they got all these LED lights and at a 0 interest business loan. The auto shop and the owner don't exist. So when ChatGPT went online and tried to find a local business that had done this with quotes, it says, oh, there are none. Let me fix that for you. And that's the danger. And it almost ran in a statewide publication with a fictional person and fictional business. And now that 50 years of trust I talked about earlier, gone because we were lazy. So, and it also doesn't do well with human interest stories at all or anything that has emotion. So if it's a form letter that you've done 1,000 times, it has too, that's great. And you can use it for some press releases in a pinch. But if you want any color, if I want to talk to you about being the new board president, and I want some color of you being a fly fisherman with a quote about now you get to live next to this stream and it means so much you can walk out your office and fish at lunch. I don't want ChatGPT handling that. But if it's Jason, a 12-year veteran of electric co-ops, has now become the CEO of MECA, yeah, I can do that. So it depends on what information you have and when to use it. So use it cautiously, fact check it. Don't ever send it without proofreading it. But be aware of its limitations right now too. And I always tell people, and this is just being frank, be careful of training your replacement. If you can show your industry that 90% of what I do can be done with prompts and ChatGPT, they'll find a way to do the other 10%. So that's one thing I always warn people, that if you show how well AI can do this and that their press release is just as good as yours, then why have you around? Make your press releases better, make them next level, and only use them when you're in a pinch.